Tall Leeds TV, and we are back with another player ratings. Not a bad result, not a good result. I'm not exactly sure where to go with this, but I think we're going to be positive tonight. I have got Oscar with me. He is aware he is on stopwatch only for all of his intersections. We're limiting him to a minimum of 15 minutes per speech, Oscar. Welcome, my lord.
How are we, mate? How are we? I'm kind of with you. I'm not sure if it's good. I'm not sure if it's bad. It might look like a fantastic point at the end of the season. It might look like 2 points dropped at the end of the season. I don't really know which way, to be fair. But look, taking a point at 90 plus 1 minute, there's absolutely no doubt about that. So we'll take it as it is. I wish we'd been better first half, to be honest. I wish we'd done what we did the second half in the first half. But it is what it is. We take the point and we move on to that last game of the season.
Yeah, mate, I think there's actually, and if you would have asked me on the day, I wouldn't have been anywhere near as positive as I am now. But I think there's so many positives we can actually take out of it. Now, there's been 3 shows in a row now, or 3 games in a row, where there's been very little positive to take out of it. And I think just from that aspect, I want to sort of stick on the positivity vibe. Look, that it wasn't perfect. I think we started well for the first 5 minutes, and then the rest of the first half was theirs. And then obviously second half, I thought we came back into it and did a really good job of, at the end of the game, both managers could have quite easily come out in their post-match press conference and said, we deserve to win that game, and both be right. I think we created enough chances, so did they. And we relied on our goalkeeper a little bit, but, you know, they've relied on theirs too. Robert Sanchez has made a few great saves, and we could quite easily have been walking away with 3 points. I know it ended up obviously dragging out until injury time, until we get the equaliser. But, you know, everyone talks about limbs and the atmosphere, and that I'm still finding bruises again already. I'll be honest, like that, it could be massive. It could be a massive, massive moment in this season. And who deserves it more than Pascal Struijk? He's not had a headed goal all season, and then pops up with one that could keep us up. So let's try and stay on that positive vibe, Oscar. How you in the East Stand for the game? Did you enjoy it? What was your view of everything?
South Stand, actually, mate. South Stand. Working in the South Stand on Sunday. Yeah, it was. So yeah, I saw absolutely everything. The positive chance, the negative chance. I saw everything, mate, and it was an unreal atmosphere, I've got to say. I did feel from there, obviously you don't see the game the same way you might do an East Stand or the West Stand in terms of from an analytical point of view, but I would say a draw was about right. I think they took the first half, we took the second half, probably about right, a draw. They could have sealed it with to be fair, with five or 7 minutes to go. I think they had a little chance actually really late on the 90 plus 5th minute. I think it was Mwepu. Had a really decent little chance, just dragged it wide of the post. It was the longest.
Lamptey.
Sorry, is it Lamptey? Yeah, it was Lamptey. Sorry, I was thinking who it was. It was Lamptey who came on, of course. Yeah. I'm glad. I will say, what I will caveat is I'm glad Lamptey didn't start the game. I'm surprised he didn't start the game. But we'll take the point. So we're going to start with Mr. Illan Meslier then.
Yeah, of course, mate. And I think this is one that I've tried to be really positive with my ratings, I'll be honest. I've watched the game back a few times. And Mellier's come in for some stick from me in recent weeks for a load of different reasons: distribution, shot stopping, just general confidence. But I could easily see, and guys, as always, if you're watching with us, get your comments in, let us know what you've given to all the players. But we'll start with Illan Meslier. I've given him a 6.5, and I know you're going to get pissed off because there's a 0.5 in there within 5 minutes, but what did you go for Meslier, Oscar, and what did you think to his overall performance?
Pretty similar, to be fair. 7 out of 10 I went for. I think distribution-wise, there was nothing outstanding, I'd say, from Illan in terms of he's pinging out wonderful passes, but he kept it pretty simple, which is all I kind of asked of him, especially after that Arsenal game. Yeah. Especially as we've not really got a clear build-up pattern yet. I think it's going to take a pre-season to build that under Marsh. I think you're going to need a bit more time to adapt that. So yeah, no problems on that score. I think he made a really decent save at 0-0 I was trying to think who it was off now. Thinking who it was off. It was first half, just like literally 5 minutes before they scored. Really decent save. Decisive on set pieces, came for corners, catch crosses, did pretty much everything you'd ask of him. I'd go 7. I don't think I think it was a decent game off Illan Meslier, to be honest. But 6.5, 7, I think pretty much the same anyway.
Yeah, no, I've gone 6.5. I thought his shot stopping was a big improvement on what it had been in the previous game. I wasn't as irritated by the punts upfield. I do think like his distribution was slightly better, and I think hopefully that's a performance that gives him some confidence, because he has seemed like he's been lacking some confidence for some time now. And it was a more confident display all round, and it didn't look panicked on the ball like it has done at times. Great to see Rod along with us. Obviously saw Rod actually in Billy's bar after the game, so I hope he enjoyed the game. I didn't get to chat to him for long, but yeah, Meslier for me 6.57. Got a few people saying the same, so I'm happy it started on a good rate. Like there's nothing negative so far. We'll move on to right back, and this is another one that I'm going to be really positive on. What have you made of? I haven't spoken to you about Koch at right back in the last game, but what have you made of Robin Koch at right back in these last two games?
Well, against Chelsea, we kind of switched between a 4 and a 5 during the game. We switched from the system a couple of times. Like I think obviously Rafinha went in at right wing back, especially when we went down to 10 men. So you couldn't really draw any conclusions against Chelsea, I didn't think. But Brighton, I've got to say, I think Koch was faultless, to be totally honest with you. I can't think of any kind of criticism. Maybe you can say he didn't look natural going forwards, but at the end of the day, I mean, he's 6'3", 6'4", playing at right back. It's hardly the most ideal kind of situation, in terms of being nimble and getting about the place and that. But I thought he did fine. He was kind of a bit more of an inverted kind of fullback. He was kind of just sitting on the halfway line when we were in our final thirds, and just kind of recycling attacks and that lot. He wasn't really overlapping Rafinha, and I don't think we'd expect him to. So that was the only kind of question mark you can have with Robin Koch is going forward. But I think defensively, there was one moment where he was out of position where Alexis McAllister had got in behind him, but he recovered instantly. And I thought it could have been a red card if he mistimed it, but he timed it to perfection. He was clearly playing with an injury second half. I thought he was going to go off a lot sooner than he did. Warrior-like performance in that kind of sense. And yeah, considering he was playing out of position, I'm even half thinking going above a 7 here. And that's
really?
Yeah, I'm half thinking it's a hard one.
So I've not been positive enough, and I thought I had been. But yeah, I'm happy
going between a 7 and an 8, and I don't want to say 0.5. I don't want to give you the satisfaction of a 0.5. But I'm going to round it up to an 8 because he's playing out of position. It's probably more of a 7 out of 10 performance, but the fact he's playing out of position against a decent player in Alexis McAllister, Cucurella as well going forward.
7.5, aren't you? You are gagging to not say it.
8. I just think he was one of our best players on Sunday. Genuinely, even in the first half when we were struggling.
You've ever said it was so 7.5 the way you've described that. So I'm going to take that as a win.
It's an 8. I genuinely think he was one of the few players who played well first half and second half.
I agree, mate. And as daft as it sounds, I actually gave him a 6 or a 6.5, I think, actually, against Chelsea. I thought he was the only player on the pitch that had a good game. I think Cooper was okay as well. But for me, I think Robin Koch, actually, when he's been on that right-hand side for the last couple of games, I actually think he has been really good. And in terms of progressive passing as well, I think he's actually been really reliable in the way that his passes have kept us the ball when we're going to get on to players that have been a bit lazy in their passing and giving away the ball all the time. Like, I think he's been really reliable, both defensively and going forward. And look, I obviously take the point that he's not the most elegant runner and he's not going to overlap. But I do think at times, especially more against Chelsea than against Brighton, I think he has carried the ball well and he's taken us on, which, credit to him, he's actually started to show a bit more of that versatility. Like he's played at CDM this season. He's played both centre-back roles. He's played right-back now. You could argue he's played like a right wing-back role. And I think with the Meslier distribution thing, Meslier distributing a ball out to the right-back area where Robin Koch was winning those headers, even after he clearly seemed to be injured. I think that the pair of them have actually brought their ratings up together because they've both actually... He's not pinging a ball out to Dan James. He's not pinging a ball out to Jack Harrison that can't win a header. Like, he's pinging it out to Robin Koch, who's in a good position. I actually think it's a position that's really suited him. So I gave him 6.5, and I thought that was positive. But seeing as you've gone 7.5, I will go 7.
Well, you know. Oh, let's go 7. Let's agree on the 7.
Okay, I can do that. I can take that.
We'll agree on the 7. We'll agree on the 7.
We'll move on to the right centre back, which is Diego Llorente. And again, I think there's good and bad bits, and I think I'm going to be a bit lower than you, but I'll wait and see where you've gone.
He has a big part in both goals. Let's just say the first goal is a shocker. Let's have it right. It's a shocker from Llorente. He should have it under control. It's just, I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to shepherd the ball out. He's misjudged the speed of the ball. Welbeck obviously has just got in behind him. It's split-second stuff. Again, sometimes you get away with those things. Sometimes you don't. And he doesn't recover particularly well either, I don't think, Diego. But other than that, I think it was genuinely, defensively, he was fine. On the ball, I think it was one of his best games of the season, to be honest, on the ball. Not just because of the pass out to Joffrey. I think my criticism at times of Diego has been he's been a little bit too, what's the best word for it on the ball?
Mental.
Trying to be a bit too clever on the ball from time to time. But that might be a tactical instruction. I think it's been less so under Jessie Marsh. I think there's been less of it under Jessie Marsh in terms of losing the ball in his own half or trying to play the line-breaking pass a bit too easily. But I thought he judged it right. I thought at times he kept it simple when he needed to. And then when he had the opportunity to go a little bit more adventurous in terms of his range of passing, trying to get the ball in between the lines and get it into Brighton's half of the pitch as quickly as possible, I thought he judged it quite well. So I'm going to go a 6. I'm going to go a 6. I think obviously you've got to take a mark off for the goal. There's no doubt about that. So I'll go about a 6. I think, to be honest with you, Diego, he's not been nowhere near last season. He's been, you think of the way he was performing this time last year. I think probably consistently a man the match contender during the last kind of third of the season. Probably our best player in the second half of last season, to be totally honest with you, in terms of how good we were defensively, in terms of our defensive record and that lot in the second part of the season.
He was him and Cooper together when they were together back in last season.
Well.
Reliable.
But I've got to say, since Cooper's come back into the team, I think Diego in general has been much better, to be honest with you. I think against Arsenal, I thought he was fine. Against Chelsea, I can't think. Again, Chelsea was an awkward one. I don't think he did much. I think he's been much better, to be honest. Since the last international break, I think he's been probably in his best run of the season, Diego, at just the right time.
Yeah. I'm going to pretend the third goal against Chelsea didn't happen, and we'll just carry on.
I'm thinking, that's why I was kind of a little bit uneasy on this, just talking about the Chelsea game. But to be honest, the game's gone at that point. Let's be honest, the game's gone. Everyone's at fault on that third goal. If you look back at it, I mean, Lukaku's had 4 shots, and no one got
in their goal yesterday, he's not alone. He can do better for it. Don't get me wrong, but Rodrigo gives the ball away in a pathetic way, to be honest, in just holding on to it. And when there's a pass where we could actually score and we give the ball away, they break up the other end quite quickly. Some people could say maybe Liam Cooper gets dragged in, but I think Liam Cooper gets dragged in because he's trying to cover for what he expects Firpo to do. So I think, we'll get on to that in a minute when we get on to that.
I think just one thing I'd say as well is, don't get me wrong, I think we'll get on to Rodrigo, of course.
Yeah,
he just has to release Harrison. When you look back at it, it's a pretty, for someone of Rodrigo's quality and experience and that, what you'd expect him to find that pass, into Harrison, to be totally honest with you. But what I will say is, when you lose the ball there, you don't expect to concede. You shouldn't be conceding losing the ball there.
I agree. There's more
the space Bazuma has. The space Bazuma has troubles me a little bit in terms of Bazuma's an exceptional player. I thought Bazuma, to be honest, was Brighton's best player on the day.
But if there is that space, so obviously you can't pin it on Rodrigo, who's lost the ball, because he's not going to get back there. You can't pin it on the defenders who play their own part later on. But is that a Calvin thing where it should be? I
don't know if it's Calvin or Click, or if it's, I don't know, or if Rodrigo shouldn't be that high up the pitch. Yeah. I don't know, to be totally honest with you. I would suspect it's probably more the midfield, but it's hard. I don't know who to blame that goal on because it was more of like
there's 2 or 3. I mean, Rodrigo gives the ball away. Llorente falls over, but I do think the midfield, whether it is Calvin or Quick, do a bit more in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The thing I'd say is, I think it was more of a system issue because of the space he had. I don't think it was. I think it was one of those where it was so sudden what happened. Calvin and Click didn't really know what to do. Do we go out to press him? Do we sit off? It's that split second thing. And I think in the end, I'm not sure if it's Calvin. I think Calvin goes across at the last minute. And it's just one of those things in terms of, and it's one of those goals where I look at and think, after a pre-season, I'd like to think we won't concede goals like that. It was just, we shouldn't lose the ball in the first place. Someone should maybe just make a tactical foul or something. I'm not sure which of the midfield 2 should have been picking him up, or if it should have been Rodrigo not to high up the pitch. I'm not sure, but
I'm definitely in agreement in perhaps it being a systematic issue more than a personnel issue. I do agree on that, but we'll get to the personnel. Don't worry. As for Llorente, you've given him a 6. I've given him a 5. So bearing in mind, I am usually like 1 below you. It's not too bad. And it is, again, like you said, marked down just for his part to play in the goal. I actually thought otherwise he wasn't too bad. On the ball, a little bit more reliable and less maverick. It was a solid display for him, but obviously he could do better, I suppose, in the goal. But like we've said, a few people could. So I'm even half tempted to bump it up a 0.5 just so it's higher than my other ones. But we'll get to those. What have you given for Liam Cooper? I've already seen one comment in giving him a 6.5.
Yeah, let's get some ratings in.
Take anything off him for getting his face in the way of an early goal for Joffrey.
Well, there's that, isn't there? And that was, as soon as that happened, I thought, oh, this is not going to be our day, this. But Liam Cooper, I agree with Gail Dale. 7, I'd say 7, to be totally honest with you. I think he just brought calm, I think first half, it was a little bit all over the place. I think across the team, it was a bit all over the place. But second half, I felt it was a bit more calm. You know, in terms of you had that experience to deal with Welbeck. And look, Welbeck gets a lot of criticism in this lot. He's a good player at this level, I think, Danny Welbeck. He might not be the most clinical finisher. He probably should have had a few on Sunday, but very good movement, works hard, pacing behind, can hold the ball up a bit. He's a difficult player to deal with in that kind of situation on counter-attacks and that lot. But I thought Liam Cooper led the line well. I think at times in the first half we dropped too deep. Second half, I think we really squeezed Brighton. To be honest with you, I thought Brighton were a lot more pinned in their own half of the pitch. I think that has to come from your back 4 being high up the pitch so that when you're pressing, it's all compact, everyone's close together. I think Liam Cooper's the best player in the team at leading us in that kind of sense, in terms of keeping the back line high up the pitch. And I think we did it really well second half. You know, I think other than the Welbeck chance late on, I've got to go with 7. I thought it was nice and calm. I know obviously the Joffrey effort, you can't blame Cooper for me. I mean, it's just unlucky. I mean, I know no one's really playing on it, but it's a 7 for me.
Yeah. No, I went 6. I thought it was an all right performance. Not the best I've seen from him, but I thought he was the better of the 2 centre halves. But I think obviously I was more impressed with Robin Koch on the right back, right wing, whatever you want to call it. I was more impressed with Koch in that position. I'm not marking him down for the goal or anything. I like I said, I think actually with the reason I've marked Cooper down at all is just because I think him and Junior Firpo perhaps on that left-hand side don't quite have an understanding yet. And I don't think Cooper's got much faith in him. So I think Cooper was overcompensating at times and sort of bargaining with his own position to try and cover Firpo, but at the same time allowing people in behind him because he was too busy trying to cover for Firpo. So I actually think it wasn't the greatest performance I've seen from him, but still perfectly fine. So I gave him a 6. I am also going to have to point this one out. I'm going to have to flash this back up when we get to Rodrigo because there's got to be a conversation here. I've got a hell of a lot to say on Rodrigo and Junior Firpo, who we're coming on to next. In terms of the performance, Oscar, I think you might go a good number for Firpo and I can see why. Progressive passes and the way that he actually helped in the build-up, I actually think his passing was okay. But defensively, he still terrifies me. And I'll let you give your say on the way he played, but then once we talk about the way he played, there is something that I absolutely have to say.
Yeah, first of all, the passing. I think that was one of the things we signed him for, really, in terms of his ability to progress the ball from back to front. I think that was one of Alioski's biggest weaknesses. I think it was on the ball in those situations when teams were pressing him against the touchline where he didn't really have that much space to play into. I didn't think that was Alioski's strength. And I think that was one of the big things with Firpo coming in, having played for Barcelona, having played for 𝐃𝐄𝐍𝐋𝐿's Etienne's Betis, teams that play out the back, very much positional play. They're used to playing in tight areas, playing out the back and all this and that. And I think we've not seen enough of that from Firpo. I think there was a spell in the middle part of the season when Firpo was starting to show those signs. But I think obviously under Marsh especially, this is probably the first time I think we've really seen that bit of quality of Firpo on the ball. Defensively, first half, well, it was a game of two halves, I think, defensively. I think first half, he really, really struggles with the combinations. Brighton combined, in terms of the way Veltman and March combined on that side to create overloads and angles to put little cutbacks in and low crosses in. He really struggled to know whether to follow March or follow Veltman on the overlap, and I think he really struggled at times with that. I have to say, I don't think Harrison had his best game defensively. I think Harrison at times, whether that was tactical not to get Harrison dropping all the way back, I'm not sure. But yeah, Firpo's got to deal with certain situations better in that first half. It was a really, really tough one for him in the first half. Second half, though, I think he won his 50-50s. I think we started to see... I think it happened with a couple of players, but Firpo was definitely better second half for me. I think that's when you start to see that little bit of quality and composure on the ball. Again, my big thing with Firpo is if he had Alioski's engine, I genuinely think we'd be having a different discussion about Firpo. It's that side of the game for me. It's that getting up and down the pitch quickly and easily and smoothly kind of thing. You watch Jamie Shackleton, it's smooth how he gets up and down the pitch. Luke Ayling, it's smooth how he gets up and down the pitch. Dallas, it's smooth how he gets up and down the pitch. With Firpo, there's times where you just wanted to overlap Harrison. Yeah, he just wanted to overlap Harrison. He just seems that little bit reluctant. I think he's being used to playing in kind of like Barcelona's system where it's kind of like pass. I think with us, it's pass, run kind of thing. Third man runs, make a run ahead. And I'm not making excuses for Firpo. He should have adapted to that quicker than what he has done. Yeah. Of course, as well, that getting the booking as well was not a massive surprise either with Junior Firpo. But second half, I do think Firpo was good. To be honest, I do think Firpo was good. So I'm going to go 6 for Junior Firpo. Okay. I'm going to go 6. I think he's got to show more next season. If Junior Firpo is still the main left back next season, I'm not sure if he will be. I think it depends what league we're in, etc., etc. He's got to be. I mean, the thing I've got to say is, Phil, is you look at 𝐾𝐿𝐄. 𝐾𝐿𝐄 is also, he's not signed from Barcelona, but he's been at Barcelona at a similar time to Junior Firpo. We need to see. You see how quickly 𝐾𝐿𝐄 has adapted to the Premier League.
Hey, we did the transfer show. We said it numerous times. Get 𝐾𝐿𝐄. They didn't fucking listen to us. They should have listened. Who
else could we mention? There was someone. Danjuma. Danjuma we were big on. I mean, he's only playing the Champions League semi-final, but there you go.
We had loads of them in there that unfortunately.
There was a striker as well. Striker. Who else do we have as a striker?
I could bring up the spreadsheet.
Yeah, we need to watch that video back. To be fair, I mean, Robert Sanchez we definitely had. We definitely had Robert Sanchez at one point. But no, Firpo's, it's been a really tough season for Junior Firpo. And to be totally honest with you, I'm looking at that Brentford game and I'm debating whether to start Pascal at left back just for that physical side of Pascal's game in terms of winning aerial duels. Because I know Ivan Toney will drift onto that side. I've watched Toney a lot of times this season. He does tend to drift across to the fullback because traditionally fullback's a little bit shorter to win that initial header, because Brentford are quite direct. Not a long ball team, but they are quite direct. They are a physical team. I might side more towards Pascal starting left back, but Firpo is 6. One of his better games this season for me.
Yeah. So again, I'm one lower than you. I went 5, and anyone that watches this show more than once every 5 years will know that that's a real high rating from me for Junior Firpo. And and I've tried to be balanced about this, and I'll go into it, but I've given the 5 based on his performance. But if I'm giving a rating for Junior Firpo as a man and someone that wears a Leeds shirt, he's getting -10. I hate him. I want him gone. Him and Rodrigo, the pair of them, and I'll tell you why. If you weren't at Ellen Road on Sunday, you won't have seen this. It's the last home game of the season, and at the end of the last home game of every season, there is a lap of honour, and the players will walk around the pitch and they will clap the fans. Rodrigo was worse. He was the first down the tunnel, but Junior Firpo did it too.
Yeah, Jack mentioned this on the post-match.
The pair of them, they both tried to walk down the tunnel, and I'm going to pick out James Mooney for this. From what I saw anyway, it looked like James Mooney turned them both round and said, "Get back out there and clap them fans." And even then, they didn't cross the halfway line. They walked across the halfway line to the centre circle like this, and then turned around and still went back down the tunnel. That, for between you, about 150 grand a week and 45 million pounds is a fucking disgrace and an insult to the fans of this club. A massive insult. So Firpo for me, for his performance, and like I said, I thought his passing was a lot better. I thought his defending is awful, always. But I've given him a 5 for his performance. But I never want to see either of them in a Leeds United shirt ever again. Even if it's next week, I hope the pair of them move somewhere else really fucking quick. Because I'm done with the pair of them. I'm done with the patience. I'm done with all the shit performances. And then I'm done with you being a prick when you get paid that much. Because it's not fucking on. It's not right. And I'm blagged that the pair of them have come in for that amount of money anyway. I think most people are. But to not clap the fans on a lap of honour on the last game of the season, it's pathetic. Like, you can't be doing that. And fair play to Mooney for sending him back out. I'll give him that. Like, I'm not happy about that. Like, people saying here, Rafinha was in tears walking around the pitch. Calvin obviously stayed and did his usual. Like, them two might well be going. We don't know. It looks that way. Whether we stay up or go down, who knows? But it's just, if they are going and they can walk around the pitch and clap the fans, I just don't see why you two can't. And it's bang out of order. So yeah, I won't ask for.
Let's move on. Yeah.
I'll move.
I mean, obviously Jack mentioned it. I've seen a couple of bits and pieces on Twitter. I've heard differing reports on that, so I'm not going to comment on it myself. But fair enough, mate. You're totally entitled to that opinion. I think if focus to stay at the club, performances have got to be better from both, and I think both will probably admit that. They have to play better than what they have done this season. I think it's just, when you obviously with the money we pay for both players, we expect more. We expect more. For sure, Jessie Marsh expects more. We need more from both to be, starters next season. They have to give more in terms of performances, consistency of performances. They're showing glimpses, but consistency is the key. But let's go on to the midfield then. Let's move on
give me what you've got for Calvin, please.
Calvin, Calvin's a bit of a similar one. I think he was okay first half. But second half, monster second half, I felt. Winning 50-50s. I think for the first time under Jessie Marsh, we saw that passing range from Calvin. And obviously kept the wingers very wide. Raf's on the touchline. Shaki Harrison's on the touchline. The pitch is stretched. Calvin's got that space then to ping the passes out wide. And just to kind of cause an argument, cause a situation for Brighton, give them something else to deal with and give Calvin that little bit more freedom to kind of dictate things from the middle. And I think he did well, I think, certainly second half. So I'm happy enough to go a 7. I think 7. I think it's probably Calvin's best game under Jessie Marsh, to be honest. I think obviously it's a new role for Jack. It's a new role for Calvin in the midfield too, rather than as a single pivot. But I think he looked in a more natural position in the second half. I think he was far better for it, and it was a big performance from him. I'll go 7. I'll go 7 for Calvin.
Yeah, as always, mate. I'm just one behind you. I went 6. I think this is a little bit harsh. I don't think he was.
Yeah.
I don't think he's hit form or maybe even sharpness or fitness or whatever it is. I don't think that he's quite got back to his heights of his normal levels since coming back into the team and since Marsh came in. And you can talk about whether that is to do with the manager. You can talk about whether that's to do with the player. And I don't really have interest in either of those arguments. All I care about is what I see on the pitch. And I don't think it's been what we expect from Calvin. So I'd give him a 6, just because I think that's an average Calvin performance, if that. We know he can do a hell of a lot better, but he is starting to warm slightly into it. I think, look, end of the day, there is an England international in there, and this could well be a very good shout. He might need match fitness. He might need match sharpness. And let's be honest, with one game left of the season, it's a really bad time to expect him to pick that up. If he can do a job
personally for me, though,
that's all that matters.
I think it's more if Calvin does stay. I'm hoping Calvin obviously stays beyond the summer. If he does stay beyond the summer, I think it's more of a case of just adapting to the system, because I think obviously he's had 3 years of playing one way. Then he's obviously worked under Gareth Southgate, and now he's been asked to do something different under Jessie Marsh. It says more of a box-to-box kind of role, a bit more of like a Kante kind of role. I think it says the way you see Kante play for Chelsea. He's not a natural holding midfielder. Sorry, he's not an out-and-out holding midfielder. He's not an out-and-out box-to-box midfielder. He's kind of just a bit more of an old-school kind of midfielder, in terms of the way you used to see midfields work, in terms of two-man midfields, in terms of one attacks, the other sits back in that lot, in terms of that understanding between Calvin and Klich. I think it looks better, second half is what I'll say. I think it looks the best it has done in quite a while.
Generally, all round, the entire performance. I mean, I know it's hard because obviously we've had a 3-game run of City, Chelsea and Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's 3 defeats and quite demoralising defeats.
I see, in the City game, I still thought we were... I thought we were okay in the City game, to be honest. I know we lost the game 4-0, but I don't think it was anything wrong tactically. I just think City were very clinical on the day.
Yeah,
we can see from 2 daft set pieces, but yeah, I'm still happy enough to go a 7 for Calvin and say it's a good performance. Calvin, I think you saw a comment before talking about the Tottenham game away from home. That was Calvin's best game of the season by a country mile. That game, in terms of how he dropped in on Harry Kane, was outstanding. But that's probably one of his best games since then. I think, yeah, that's what I'd probably say on that.
Yeah, like I said, I went 6. I'm intrigued to see if you've gone a 7 for Calvin Phillips. I'm intrigued to see what you give Matthias Klich, because I went high for Klicky. I thought Klicky had a good game.
Yeah, I've gone. It's a hard one. It's a bit like Robin Koch situation. This, I think he was the better of the two. Certainly, first half. What?
0.5.
I think you look at the strike as well, like Robert Sanchez save. I mean, it's one superb strike. Yeah, I think it was a good performance from Matthias Klich. I'm going to go with 7, though. I'm going to go with 7.
That's the same. You just don't want to say the word 0.5.
I don't, to be honest. I don't want to say the word 0.5. I'm not ashamed of it.
It's because you don't want to go to an 8, but you know he's better than a 7. So I think you should just...
No, I'd say 7. I'm going to stick with a 7. I think when you look at Bazouma's performance, it's very hard to give either of the midfield an 8, really, in terms of...
Yeah, absolutely.
Bazouma bossed the midfield first half, let's be totally honest. Yeah. But Bazouma's I think Bazouma's one of the most underrated players in the Premier League, to be totally honest with you, in terms of outside the top
we said that we wanted.
What's that?
Another one that we said we wanted on the transfer.
Well, yeah, Bazouma's not a hot take. I mean, Bazouma's we've known about for years. But yeah, we did. To be fair, Bazouma was mentioned a few times, but be interesting though. I think if teams looking at Calvin, I'd imagine they'll be looking at Bazouma as well within their scouting. It'd be interesting who they'd go for out of the two. I think they've both got different skills and qualities, both very, very good players in their own right. But Bazouma, I felt, was superb for Brighton, so I'll go 7. I'm happy enough to go with 7 on the basis that I don't think we ever really thoroughly dominated midfield at any stage of the game. Yeah, so I'll go with 7. I'll go 7 out of 10 for Matthias Klich. One of Klich's better games of the season, I think.
It's annoying because normally I'm one behind you on everything, and I know that for a fact. So I know you would go higher for Klich. So I'd give him a 7, and that's in me being like a stingy person. I thought he had a really good game. I honestly think we've seen loads of people call for Lewis Bate to start over Klich, and people even in the comments there, someone say he's not a Premier League player. He could have scored the goal, but like let's be honest, it's a really good save from Robert Sanchez both times because he has 2 big chances. But Sanchez is a quality goalkeeper, and Klich was involved in making chances. His passing was good. His progressiveness was good. And I was really happy with the way he played. And if it wasn't for a couple of players having a really good game, he'd be a contender for man of the match for me. I thought it was one of his much better games, especially since Marsh came in. And make of it what you want in terms of the relationship between the two of them. We don't know. Some people think it doesn't look good, but I thought that performance on Sunday looked a hell of a lot more positive than people saying, "Oh, they were arguing at Palace" or whatever. Like I thought it was all right from Klich. I gave him 7.
The thing I'd say is, prior to that Palace game, I think Klich had been one of our best players in terms of the first 5 or 6 games of the Marsh. I think he was probably alongside Robin Koch, one of the more improved players to Marsh. Obviously, since that Palace game, it's not been plain sailing. Obviously, Lewis Bates took his place and all this lot. But yeah, for me at Brentford, there's no doubt about it. Klich and Phillips would be within midfield. If Forshaw was available, it might be a different story. But yeah, Klich I think was good on Sunday anyway. But let's move on to the front 4 then. Let's move on to
before you do that. Bissouma, transfer market have him down as 31.5 million transfer market value. Calvin 45. So the general sort of scope is
Bissouma.
Bissouma is 25.
So pretty much same age as Calvin. Calvin 26.
Let me check. Hold on.
Pretty sure Calvin.
Yeah, he's 26.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, like Bissouma is classed as a central midfielder. He's not classed as a CDM.
We can't play that.
That CDM has a tax on it. If you can play CDM, people will always bump your price up because it's such.
But I think Bissouma can. I think he's similar to a Rice in the sense that he can play there for me, Bissouma.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
it's a hard one because
obviously being further up.
I think another consideration would be in terms of Calvin's injury record in the last 2 years as well. Obviously, he's missed a lot of this season, especially. He's missed a lot of games. He missed, I think, about 10, 12 games last season because of obviously the shoulder. And that lot. I think it was the shoulder actually last season. So there's that debate about it. I think in terms of pure performances, I love Calvin, but I've got to say Bissouma's probably played better this season. But I think Calvin's probably got the body of work.
Oh.
He's got the deeper body of work in terms of the Euros, in terms of last season, in terms of the performances of the Bielsa. So I'd say they're about the same in terms of value. I'd say both. I'll say both about 50, 60-ish.
Yeah,
I'd say we're not in the COVID market now, are we? So I'll go around 60. I'll go if we stayed up, and I'd say around 50, 60 mil. So somewhere around that, I'd say is about a reasonable price. If we're saying Declan Rice is about 70, 80, maybe more.
Let's be honest, they ain't selling him for less than 100.
No, so you got to say
I couldn't argue that.
Yeah, so you got to say at least 50, 60 mil for Calvin Phillips and Bissouma on that basis then. Definitely for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, so we'll move on to Rafinha next. I've gone quite positive on Rafinha, I'll be honest. What did you give him?
Oh, Rafinha. This isn't one I've really thought about that much, to be honest, Rafinha. Oh. Yeah, it was... There's a lot of endeavour about Rafinha's performance. I don't think we saw the true moments of quality that we normally associate with Rafinha in tight games like this. Well, certainly we did in the first bit of the season and at times this part of the season. I'll go with 6 for Rafinha. Yeah, I'll go with 6. Rafinha for me is our best player, but I'm going to go with about 6 here. But yeah, I think the fighting spirit was superb from him. Really good battle between him and 𝐾𝐿𝐼. Both going both ways, really. 𝐾𝐿𝐼 tested him a few times defensively. I think Rafa matched him. Rafa match didn't go in the other way as well. So, yeah, I'll go about 6. But I think I'm not sure about the way we're passing now. I'm not sure I'd agree with that. I think there was times where he got on the ball deeper than you'd normally expect him to get on the ball. And Sprain's really nice. Fowler's really nice. Let me say, not the same quality. Obviously not the same quality, but when you're watching older Messi kind of thing, it says a drop in really, really deep and then find that little pass into the runners ahead of him. He wasn't doing it to the same standard as Messi, obviously he wasn't doing it, but playing that similar kind of deep lying playmaking role kind of thing, as Harrison, Gelhart stayed quite high up the pitch, Rodrigo as well. I'll go about a 6. I think I want a little bit more from Rafa at Brentford, to be honest, so I'll go a 6.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit lost by this Matty G giving him a 5. And to be honest, I think 6 is really low as well. I've actually gone 7.5. I thought he had a really good game. Don't get me wrong, he's a moments player, and how many individual moments did he produce in the game? Right, maybe not enough to give him a 10 out of 10, but I actually thought the passing comment was a bit off. Generally speaking, he is going to try more expansive things because that's the position that he's in. You don't expect Robin Koch to try and create goals every 5 seconds, whereas Rafinha, that's what he expects from himself. I thought he ran at 𝐃𝐎𝐿, gave 𝐃𝐎𝐿 a hard time. I thought he was good in possession and out of possession, to be honest. He had the free kick, which does it hit the bar? Does Sanchez save it? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Both,
great save, I think.
Him and Joffrey genuinely linked up really well together throughout the game, and I thought when we started to come into our own was when they were actually like linking up together really well, and obviously Rodrigo we'll get onto, and I don't think it was a great performance from Rodrigo overall, but when he's got Rafinha next to him, they link up well and they make each other look better. I can accept this. I don't think his corner deliveries were great, but end of the day, I'm trying to just go on a positive note, and I feel like it was a good performance from him. And like, I thoroughly agree with what you say about Brentford. We 100% need Rafinha on his game against Brentford. We need him to make a decisive impact. And me sitting here and saying his passing was good, his link-up play was good, his work rate was good. There needs to be a goal against Brentford. There needs to be an assist against Brentford. There needs to be a moment. He's a moments player. There needs to be a moment. But
Can I just say on the moments player, what you say about the moments player? I agree. Second part of the season, he's definitely been, he's not really been running games. I think since West Ham away, really. I think West Ham away was really the last great Rafinha performance we've seen that I can think of. Yeah. But yeah, I think obviously the second part of the season, it's been a lot more isolated moments, like the Norwich goal, the Watford goal, this and that, the Man United goal. It has been isolated moments, but I think the first part of the season, he was running games really. I think obviously West Ham at home, he was that first 70 minutes until he came off injured, he was absolutely outstanding. Yeah. Newcastle away, a couple of other games as well. That'll come to me in the second. Leicester at home, Norwich away, where he's literally just head and shoulders above everyone else on the pitch, kind of thing, even for the opposition as well. And that's kind of being frustrating that. We haven't seen that side of Rafinha as much second part of the season. But I do think that's more down to circumstance, down to kind of us not being great performance-wise, not being able to really get the ball into him in dangerous enough areas often enough. But I do feel if we play like we did second bit against Brighton at Brentford, there's a possibility we can get Rafinha a full 90 of brilliance from Rafinha, I'm hoping.
I think David makes a great point here as well.
Yes.
The formation, obviously, on Sunday really played. That's why I think, if anything, I've given him 7.5. I actually think that plays a lot into it. He was in a more natural position, and I think it suited him a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was the same with Harrison. Although Harrison wasn't as good as Rafinha, I don't think, on Sunday, and yeah, it did feel like that we were playing with a lot more width, and it looked better. We created more chances.
Well, I was about to go to Jack Harrison. So, what have you given for Harrison?
I didn't think Jack was great, to be honest, on Sunday. I think Jack's been good under Marsh. He's obviously got some crucial goals, plenty of goals this season, but I've gone a 5 for Harrison, to be honest. I think it was it just didn't happen for him. Plenty of endeavour, no question on the endeavour side of things. I just felt there's a couple of moments he had in and around Brighton's box where I just don't think he's quite quick enough to make the decision. And when he did make the decision, it didn't quite come off for it. But the endeavour was there. He was involved in the game. But yeah, just in the final product, it didn't quite happen for him in terms of end product. So I'll go a 5. I think it was, by Harris's standards, quite a poor game for Jack. And again, we need him fully at it against Brentford.
Yeah. I feel like even some of the comments are a little bit harsh. I mean, it's true. I think that's the biggest.
I don't think he always overthinks. For me,
it's the criticism you can aim at him is that sometimes he doesn't make the decision. He spends too long dwelling on the ball before he. In fact, this comment says it for me. Before he'll chop and he'll chop and he'll chop, but he plays a part in the goal in finding Greenwood inside, and then the ball gets recycled to Llorente, and then obviously we go and score through Gelhart and Stroud. I went 6.5, and I thought it was actually a really positive display from Harrison. I was happy with him going forward. I was happy with him going backwards. I don't think, like you said, I think he did sort of leave Firpo to get molested a little bit sometimes. He could do with getting back to cover Firpo a bit more because, like I said, I think Cooper was dragged out of position to cover it. But generally speaking, going forward, I actually thought he got into some great positions. There was times when that ball never came, but he kept making the run. But when he did make the decision, like I can think of 2 shots already off the bat where he gets into a great position, but the shot is closed down because he takes a little too long to make the choice. Yes, I can accept perhaps a little bit too slow in choosing to pass or shoot, but I actually thought it was quite a positive display for him. So I went 6.5. We'll move on to Rodrigo anyway, and Oscar, I'm going to let you take the 4 here because obviously I've already had a little bit of my say on it, and I won't go back into the attitude, but I will go back into the performance.
Yeah, so I'm just going to focus on performance here. I think it was a game of 2 halves to an extent. I think first half is one of those halves for Rodrigo. Everything he tried didn't come off. There's a time in about half an hour in where he's kind of kicked the ball straight out of play, and the whole of Ellen Road has been shouting at him, to be fair. And frustration, obviously, it's just after the goal happened as well. Nothing quite came off for Rodrigo in the first half. But second half, I thought was better. Kept the ball better, I felt. Some nice little runs off the ball as well. Pressing, I felt, was better. Yeah, I'm going to go 5 for Rodrigo. I think, disappointing one for Rodrigo, because I think, again, he was one of those players under Marsh who started really, really well, but ever since Palace, has kind of just dropped off a little bit and didn't really perform today, but against Brighton, on Sunday. So, yeah, I'll go about 5 for Rodrigo.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of trying to find some statistics to back up my argument here because I want to double check before I say it. But it
I can imagine pass completion was.
That's where I'm going straight away. So
I can imagine it's all.
I'm not a big fan. I've never hidden that. I'm not going to hide that. I wasn't happy with him. Again, obviously for the attitude thing, I'll leave that where it is. I've already spoken about it. I'm not going to go back into it. But for me, in terms of the ball, so his pass completion was 63.3. So out of the people that started, the only people that completed less passes, outfield players, was Rafinha and Gelhart. But Gelhart gets the assist for the goal. And from what I can remember, Gelhart's passes, whether they went right or wrong, they were creating chances, or at least attempting to. And Rafinha the same. I'm not really going to get into them on pass completion. But for me, Rodrigo, 63 actually surprises me that he managed to complete that much, because it felt like every time he had the ball, he gave it away. I don't really understand why we signed him. I don't really understand what he or anybody else thinks he is. It's incredibly frustrating to watch him. He can't seem to. People will do the whole decision making and throw that at Jack Harrison. Well, how long does it take to decide to play a pass for it? And there is different levels for Jack Harrison, who has been on loan here for 3.5, 4 years and has credit in the bank, and someone that costs nearly £30 million, our all-time record signing, on the money that he's on. I don't think he offers us anything systematically, individually. I just don't think he's good. He's got very few good performances in his locker since he started with us. I can think of Burnley last year away, and that's pretty much it. His passing is pretty awful. Physically, he's the weakest player I think I've seen in our team this season. And that stands against people like Lewis Bate, who are 10 years younger than him and nowhere near his build. He just seems to get thrown off the ball very easily. And his attitude to running seems like he absolutely hates it. So, yeah, I can't get behind anyone saying he had a good game. Can't get behind anyone saying he tried. I agree 100% with Gail. I don't think he gives a flying fuck about Leeds United, and I hope he knows the feeling's mutual, because I don't give a flying fuck about him. I hope he goes, and the sooner the better. I gave him a 5 for his performance, and I was being really nice. But yeah, I'll move on to Gelhart, and the question that goes with Joffrey Gelhart, and I imagine most people will say the same thing. Was he your man of the match, Oscar?
Yes, yeah, he was. It was a strange game for Joffrey, really. You know, it was one of those where he went through periods of the game, like 20-minute spells, where I don't think he actually touched the ball, to be honest. And that was more on the team rather than him. He stayed patient. He didn't start drifting wide and getting moved away from the central area in that kind of sense. He stayed in the box, kept kind of occupying Brighton's 2 centre-backs. And that's the worst thing you can do as a striker, is getting impatient. And that's what Joffrey didn't do. When he got his moments, he tried to create danger. He's direct. That's the thing you got to like about Joffrey. He plays without fear. I mean, you've got players like that who play without fear. They've always got that moment in the locker to just produce something out of nothing in crucial times of the game. Norwich, Wolves, Burnley, 3 games straight off the bat, you know, in terms of away from home. Sorry, at home. Where
Chelsea away as well.
Chelsea away. I'm just thinking of his away performances too. He's had a few of those as well. So I don't know what his best position is, Joffrey. I suspect it's probably going to be as a number 10. I think if Bamford was in the team, I'd like to see him playing off Bamford as a 10 kind of thing. But I don't think you can kind of give Joffrey a specific position. I think he's just, you know, in terms of, let's see how he does kind of thing. It's one of them. He's one of those players where it's not obvious what his clear position is yet.
Well, I think I can nail him down to a position. You know, if you ever played Pro Evo or FIFA, the second striker role. So if you've got 2 up front and you've got 2 centre forwards, imagine dropping one of them slightly deeper. So he's not a 10. He's not a 9. He's like a 9.5. As daft as that sounds, that's not me trying to get like genuinely, he's a perfect second striker. And I think for Joffrey in the future, if Patrick Bamford is fit, you know how England used to have Crouch and Defoe, little and large, done a million times. I think Bamford is the hold-up man, and Joffrey running off him is a brilliant thing to do.
I agree. I agree with that. It depends what kind of system we play, but I still think he can play different roles though as well. I think he's capable of that. I think I'm not comparing him to Phil Foden in terms of he's as good as Phil Foden, but he's similar in the sense that I don't know what Phil Foden's best position is yet. I think you can play him anywhere across the front, and you'll find a way to interpret the position in his own way. So he's got a very unique skill set. There's very, very few players in this country with his kind of skill set in terms of how he plays the game, how he sees the game, physically, in terms of how he can hold the ball up. And he's big in his own right, Joffrey Gelhart. In terms of, it's not like Bamford and Gelhart would be a big man, little man partnership. Joffrey's pretty big in his own right and has got that little bit of turn of speed as well. But yeah, I thought on Sunday, in terms of the composure on the goal was worth a lot of points. You know, in terms of the quality, the improvisation is worth a lot of points. So I've gone 8 for Joffrey. Gone 8 out of 10 for Joffrey. I think he was my man of the match. For Leeds, I think he's our best player on the pitch. And yeah, it was moments from Joffrey. You know, he threatened other moments as well. A couple of shots just dragged wide. But yeah, I thought it was a really positive performance of Joffrey. He gave us a bit of a focal point up top. I think he's better in that role than what Rodrigo's been. I think he's better in that role than what Dan James has been, than what Tyler Roberts has been when he's played there. And other players that have played in that position. Not quite on Bamford's level, I don't think. I think Bamford, for me, if he was fit, look, he's probably not going to be fit for Brentford, but if there was even the slightest chance he was fit, he'd be in the team for me with Joffrey playing off him. Even if he can only play one half like he did against Norwich, I think it's worth it, to be honest. I think it's worth the risk. But look, that's just my view on that. But Joffrey, I can certainly see him possibly being a 10, possibly him being a second striker. I can see any role for Joffrey at this moment in time. But the other thing I'd say is about the second striker is that 2 up top systems are getting more and more rare. I think he might need to be a bit more of a specialist than that. I think he might need to either be a 10 or a 9. I don't think, unless we're going to suddenly switch to a 4-4-2 next season permanently.
4-2-2-2, mate.
4-2-2-2. Who knows? Who knows what the system will be? I think it will depend on who stays, who goes, what kind of recruitment's done. But Joffrey, for me, certainly should be getting more minutes next season, will get more minutes next season. I think I've just got to say one thing about Marsh in terms of he's got criticism over Joffrey not starting that many games, but I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if the stats will back me up on this, it feels like Joffrey's played as many minutes under Marsh as what he did in the first 2/3 of the season under Bielsa. I think he certainly had as many starts in that kind of time frame. But
bear with me, keep talking.
Just remember, though, just a couple of things just remember is that Tyler Roberts was ahead of Joffrey in the pecking order, the Bielsa. Things like this as well to remember. Rodrigo was ahead of Joffrey in the pecking order too, but I'm pretty sure Joffrey's now started, is it 2 or 3 games under Jessie Marsh?
I know he started 4 all season. I'm trying to find starts.
I'm pretty sure only one of those has been under Bielsa. So, listen, I still think Marsh needs to play him more, but you've got to give a certain level of credit to Marsh for having a bit more faith in Joffrey than what Marcelo ultimately did. But you can also say
the only criticism in his minutes is I don't agree that he should start more games. In all honesty, I actually think he's a brilliant sub, an impact sub, but. For me, I wouldn't wait until 70, 80 minutes. For me, if we're not winning or drawing at half time, he should be on at half time. And at the very latest, 60 minutes, give him half an hour. But I think he's a better impact sub than he is a starter.
I agree with that.
Run at tired legs when you Joffrey Gelhart.
But in terms of our options at this moment in time, I think he should start. In terms of with no Bamford, no Dan James.
Yeah, of course.
No other options as well. I think he should start, to be totally honest. I think he should have.
For the season in general, to call for him to have had more minutes, unless it's more minutes off the bench, I wouldn't support the argument of that he should.
I think he should have more minutes over the season. I think he should have had more. Whether it starts or coming on earlier, he should have had probably twice as many minutes as what he has had, I think, to be totally honest with you. So,
I mean, you gave him an 8. I'll be honest, I also gave him an 8. He's my man of the match. And I honestly think, look, I know it's a daft thing to say, but if you go back and watch Match of the Day, you would struggle to give him any lower than an 8 just on the highlights. I know there's a lot more to the game than what happens in the highlights on Match of the Day, and there was spells where he was quiet. But like I said, his link up with Rafinha was very good. His finishing in obviously didn't really get many chances to actually go and score a goal, but he has a massive part to play in Pascal getting the equaliser, and the skill that's involved in that it's understated. Like most people, Wilf Sahar or like one of these players that just does silly tricks. All that, like, as much as I love him, Luis Diaz, like he'll do a silly trick and get past somebody. It's not like that. He's not whipped his cock out and swung it around. Like he's done something so understated in the way that he's taken the ball past the man, floated a ball to the back post that invites a header. And that is so understated for a kid of his age. I think he's made a massive impact on our season. And the points, when you look at it, that he's won us this season for a kid of his age.
Yeah, exactly. His goal
and calming it down, but he is massive for this club, and we need to keep hold of him big time.
His goal contribution per 90 rate must be absolutely insane in terms of goals and assists. I can think of loads of assists he's made, that cross for James. I mean, James beating someone in the air against Burnley is mad, but it was all about that cross in from Joffrey Gelhart, and he's got that little bit of everything to his game. You know, in terms of a similar kind of talent to Phil Foden, different build to Phil Foden, of course. I don't think he's as fast as Phil Foden, but I think he's more physical than Phil Foden. But he's got that little bit of just something out of nothing kind of thing, that fearlessness kind of thing. And I'm not saying he's at that level of Phil Foden, but he's got a similar kind of skill set.
I'm not the only person to have ever said it, and I think so many people. I think he is special. I think he's got every right in the next 5 years to go on and achieve anything a Rafinha can achieve, anything Calvin can achieve. I don't see why Joffrey Gelhart can't achieve what they've achieved easily. I think
he's almost 10 years younger than both. If you think about it, he's close to being 10 years younger than 5 years. So, look, he's pretty unique in terms of skill set. There won't be many players in England who can have his kind of physical qualities and technical qualities combined, kind of thing. So he's a different kind of profile. I mean, at this moment in time, you're seeing a lot of wingers, wide forwards coming through for England at this moment in time. A lot of number 10s coming through for England at this moment in time. But you're not seeing many people like Joffrey Gelhart, who's got a little bit of a different kind of skill set. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops. But it's all about minutes, I think, for us. It's all about getting minutes, because if he's not playing for us, ultimately he's not going to progress until he's kind of like 2021 and maybe getting more regular game time then. So,
I think regardless of whether we go down, whether we stay up, next season he can't have another season like this in terms of minutes. It has to be through the roof minutes.
His minutes have to double, treble. Even if we sign another striker, I want to see his minutes doubling or trebling. No matter what system we play, he should be one of the first players off the bench next season. And he's one of those players where, if you're looking at the season as a whole, in terms of the terrible season it's developed into, he's kind of been like the opportunity that's come from all this, in terms of not having that much squad depth and all this lot. If we did have squad depth, Joffrey Gelhart probably wouldn't even be getting on the bench, and we probably wouldn't be seeing his talent kind of thing. Because let's be honest, how much would you have to pay in terms of on the transfer market to get someone who can do what Joffrey Gelhart can do off a bench, or in terms of impacting games in such a short space of time? You know, the Burnley assist, the Wolves assist, the Norwich goal, the Chelsea goal, the goal obviously the party played in the goal on Sunday. You know, you're paying quite a bit of money for that. So it's like an opportunity that's kind of emerged from this. Or similar to Charlie Cresswell. Charlie Cresswell, someone who I'm a very, very big fan of, who I think should be playing a lot more minutes than what he has played this season. Similar to Joffrey. To an extent, Mate is a similar situation. I think Cody Drame might be a similar situation next season. They all need to get more minutes next season. I think if Jessie Marsh, whatever league we're in, does like to rotate the squad, and I do expect to see their players get more minutes.
Oh, mate, it'll definitely be interesting to see how the names you mentioned there, and Somerville as well. It'll be interesting to see how they integrate into the team next season, and obviously with the way the transfer market might go, people leaving, people coming. But I think most Leeds fans would like to see more minutes for the younger players, because I think they've all earned an opportunity. Let's move on to the subs anyway. We'll go in chronological order, which I know isn't that hard, but Jamie Shackleton came on first. Obviously, Robin Koch was pulling up with his back. Hopefully, Koch will be all right for Brentford, but if not, I thought Shackleton came on and had a really positive performance. What did you make of Jamie Shack?
Yeah, it was positive. It was bright, energetic. Added something different to the right-hand side of the defence. I'll go 6. Because obviously it's only come on to sub. The game was quite frantic at that time and quite open. I'll go about 6, Jamie Shacks.
Yeah, that's fair. I went 6.5, so I'm not far off you. I just thought it was a really good display from him. I was happy with him when he came off. I didn't think he did a right lot wrong. Encouraging. So, if God forbid there is a problem with Robin Koch and he can't be involved against Brentford, I know it's a small sample size, but based on what I saw from Shacks on Sunday, if he has to jump in, because obviously everybody's been saying if he gets thrown in at right back, he's not played in months, but now he has, and it was positive, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, Shack's was one of our better players when he filled in for Ayling, to be honest. And when Ayling got that injury, I think Shack's was doing pretty well, to be honest, at that point. And he's not played much football since then, but he's had an okay season, Shack's, if you base it on the minutes he's played and how he's played during those minutes.
Yeah, he's not had anywhere near as many minutes as he would like, I imagine.
Yeah, there's definitely that. I think it's been quite a constant theme, that, with James Shackleton, to be totally honest with you.
Moving on to, and I'll save Pascal for last. Moving on to Sam Greenwood. Obviously, he came on in the double substitution with Pascal with about 10 minutes to go. People will say it should have been earlier. People will say it should have been whatever. But how did you feel he did when he came on? For me, there was only really the goal pattern of play that he was involved in. But again, that sentence alone, he was very much involved in that pattern of play.
Some nice touches. Yeah. I think he added something different to the game. I like Sam Greenwood, to be honest. I think I rate him more than most in terms of. I think a lot of people are saying he's one of like almost the forgotten players that have kind of emerged from the academy. But he's kind of matched Joffrey Gelhart for goals and assists for the under 23s. So he's a good player in his own right. Obviously, he's not quite adapted as quickly as Joffrey Gelhart, but different kind of player. He's had his moments obviously against Watford and Wolves, where he's come on and got assists in the game. Really good assists as well. Yeah, I think he was a bright point in the game. I think he did add something to it. So I'll go. Oh, I'm going to go for it. 6. I'll go 6. I think it was good. I think it was decent.
0.5 on the end of it, man.
No, I'll go 6. I'm comfortable with 6. About the same impact as Shack's, I'd say.
Whatever. Yeah, I'll give him 6.5. So the same again. I thought it was good when he came on, and obviously he played a part in the goal. And like you said, he's had a good part to play in the last few games when he's had a few more minutes. This is one of the very few opportunities that I can really pull out where I'd say Bielsa maybe didn't give him a chance, and Marsh has. Anyone that Marsh has given a chance since Bielsa's gone is kind of the same lot, but Greenwood rarely got much of a look in under Bielsa, and he's definitely had more minutes under Marsh than Bielsa. So, and obviously, like Marsh has come out and said that he suits and understands his system really well. So maybe that's why. But I think he was good when he came on, and we'll go to the guy that scored the winning goal, Pascal Struijk, obviously off the bench. Defensively,
equalising goal.
Yeah, well, it feels like a winner. I don't think you could really give him a 10 for like anything else, like defensively, but that could be a massive goal come the end of the season.
I've gone 7. I've gone 7 for Pascal. I think I'd still say he should start at Brentford. I think for that height, because obviously we know Eriksen's going to be swinging balls into the box. Ivan Toney likes to peel off the fullbacks. When obviously Brentford go quite long and quite direct to start off with, but not a long ball team as such. But they do like to turn us around quite quickly, certainly from what I've seen of them, and obviously press quite high as well. I would start Pascal at left back for this one for me. I think he made a good impact in this game too. Obviously, superb run, by the way. In terms of it was a proper fullbacks kind of run, and obviously Pascal not being a natural fullback, did well to get in that position and anticipated it really well. Composure as well on the header, by the way. In terms of there's three Brighton players on the line. He's kind of put it in between two of them and just put a bit too much pace on it for Webster to get it off the line. So superb composure at a critical point in the game. I think he's done well whenever he's played at fullback, considering he's not a fullback. I think you can go back as far as the Tottenham game, the Leicester game back in November, I can think of, where he did really well there. So, yeah, I'll go 7 for Pascal. And we forget how good Pascal is. We do forget how good Pascal is. I mean, obviously, he's not had as good a season this season as last season, but he's still a really good talent for us to have, and a versatile talent at that as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, mate. I would 100% be starting him at left back against Brentford. I genuinely think he's been very impressive, to be honest, when he has come on at left back. Like I said against Chelsea, I thought Robin Koch was one of our better players against Chelsea and had a good game, which is hard to say of anyone in that game. But at left back, I thought Pascal was good as well when he was, whether it was a wing back or whatever it was. But Pascal's not a man you associate with bombing forward and overlapping, but he did it. It might not suit him, but generally speaking, I was really happy with Pascal's performance in the last two games. I know he didn't get enough minutes, perhaps against Brighton on Sunday, but if he could start, I would feel a hell of a lot more confident when that team sheet comes out. If I see Pascal's name on it than Sergio, and that's not a dig. It's just like you said, there is reasons behind it, and obviously for the goal, it could be an absolutely massive goal for us. So fingers crossed that will feel like the goal that kept us up. Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. Listen,
we're all worried, but fingers crossed that could be a massive moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we've got to play on the front foot at Brentford. No, I'd be really disappointed if we approach it like we did against Crystal Palace or like we did in the first half against Brighton. I think we've got to be on the front foot. I think we've got to be pressing high. Wingers got to be wide, and just go for it in that kind of sense. If we lose the game, we've got to hope. Obviously, we get a bit of luck, elsewhere, and we might well be in a situation where, on the last day of the season, we start behind Burnley. We've got to accept that. It might be the situation, but we've got to play on the front foot, no matter what.
Look, we've got to hope that Burnley lose their last two games. That's it. We've got to hope they lose, and if they get a point, we need a point. If they get a win, we need a win. We have to better whatever they do.
Yeah, exactly that, and that's the situation we're in. That's the nature of it. And look, obviously it'd been better, much better for us to start off in front of Burnley on that last day. But either way, for me, we've got to go for it against Brentford. We've got to play without fear, and just go for it. Give it everything we've got. Because listen, we were pretty much, if we're being totally honest, we were pretty much gone, I think, on 90 plus 1 minutes against Brighton. I think psychologically we've got to take from that now that was kind of like the moment kind of thing. We've now got to just push on from that. We've got to push on from that. It felt like in the ground, it felt like relegation against Brighton kind of thing. And that's point in the game. Like there was no way back. Welbeck had that chance. As that cross was going into Welbeck. That kind of sense. And it was almost pretty much gone at that point in terms of our chances of survival. So, look, that's got to be the mentality we go with, that we play without fear now. We play without fear. If the worst comes to the worst, listen, we probably felt it already at times in that Brighton game. So that's just, psychologically, that's the way I think Jessie Marsh will approach it. That's the way I want him to approach it. And I think that's the best way to approach the game. Brentford away, it's a very tough game, but I think we showed things in that second half that were much, much better. Will allow us to compete, hopefully, in that game. But we can't afford to sit off Brentford, because obviously you're sitting off Brentford, you're allowing Tony time and space to win the flick-ons, Eriksen time and space in the middle of the park to kind of try and break down our low block. And he's got the quality to do it. So I think you just got to play, you've got to go toe-to-toe against Brentford, I think. I think that's the only way you can kind of play them. I think obviously you've seen Burnley go there a couple of weeks ago, sat off them, got beat. Southampton were quite passive against them, got beat. A few teams have got beat by Brentford, in terms of being quite passive. Everything was quite passive against them.
They've had a good season. They've had a similar season, maybe not quite as good, but similar season to what we had last year.
I wouldn't say quite as good, but they've been one of the biggest overachievers in terms of where they've come from, in terms of obviously only coming up through the playoffs last season rather than automatic promotion. They've adapted to the league remarkably well, not made that many signings. Full credit to Brentford. Really well run club. And I know a lot of people at Brentford as well. It's a very savvy club in terms of the work really well.
Brilliant recruitment.
You've got to give them that 100%. Not just this season, across like the last couple of years, in terms of they replaced the likes of Watkins really well, Ben Rama really well. Different kind of players in that kind of sense. So really well run club. You saw what Everton did to him. I know Everton went down to 10 men, then 9 men, but they sat off him. And Brentford are so good at picking you up, because it's what Eriksen would love that, in terms of just us giving him the challenge of trying to break us down. He has that quality to find Tony. Tony has that quality to finish. And then you've got Mbuemo and Wissa, who are very underrated players as well, either side of Tony. So have to be on the front foot for me.
Absolutely, mate. Completely agree with you. I mean, look, Thursday night's going to be massive for us. Let's fingers crossed that Burnley and Everton both lose their games in hand. And then obviously it comes down to a straight shootout on Sunday. Guys, if you haven't already, smash the like, subscribe to the channel. And obviously over the weekend, there's going to be a shitload of content for you. Fingers crossed it's all going to be as positive as I think quite a bit of this has been. Apologies if it wasn't. But yeah, ideally keep locked to the channel because there's going to be plenty coming out. And Oscar, it's all going to be positive things, isn't it, mate?
Yeah,
We are.
absolutely. We've got a chance now. You know, even if Burnley win on Thursday and Everton win on Thursday, we've still got a chance, kind of thing. So that's all I could kind of on 90+1 minutes against Brighton. That's all I could kind of ask for, to be honest. So it's frustrating we've got ourselves into this situation, but look, we just got to get ourselves out of it now. Play about fear. And let's see what we can do. I'll be down in London on Sunday anyway, so let's hope. Let's hope it's going to be a happy trip to London this time.
Good. Well, obviously we can't all be there, but cheer us on for everybody else, mate. And fingers crossed. I hope you have a good day, guys. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Like I said, if you haven't already, like the stream, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, thank you for joining us tonight. And obviously we will see you again over the weekend. Plenty more to come, and fingers crossed we can still do this. It's in our hands.